Picture this. It's 11:30 at night. The house is completely quiet, and honestly, the soft blue glow of my dual monitors is literally the only light in the room. I've got my third cup of coffee sitting here, going cold. On my left monitor, I've got the Cambridge Assessment digital marking portal open, constantly refreshing with new scripts. On my right monitor is the official, highly confidential mark scheme for Arabic Language 8680. Specifically, we're looking at the 2028 essay topics tonight. We're talking young people, urban and rural life, food and drink, equality of opportunity, and sport. I am your chief examiner, and in this explainer, I am pulling you right out of the classroom and dropping you directly into my chair at the marking desk. We are going to simulate a high-stakes, point-of-view experience because here's the absolute truth. By the time I finish reading your very first paragraph, I already know. I know if you are operating at an A-star tier or if you are slipping dangerously down into a failing threshold. So let's pull back the curtain and see exactly what happens when your exam paper hits my screen.
Okay, here is our daily briefing for this session. We're going to cover the 15-second scan, the candidate clash, a live marking audit, and finally, my top 3 examiner warnings.
Section 1. The 15-second scan. Let's talk about hunting for your essay's architectural skeleton.
15 seconds. That is exactly how long it takes me to scan your page and find your architectural skeleton. Actually, sometimes it's even less. When that digital script loads onto my screen, my eyes are instantly hunting for 3 specific things. AO1, which is your knowledge, AO2, which is your understanding, and crucially, absolutely most importantly, AO3, which is your evaluation. Let's say the exam prompt asks you to evaluate urban migration's impact on sporting opportunities. Now, a weak candidate, they're going to spend their first 15 seconds defining the word migration like a dictionary and then just listing out popular sports. That is superficial breadth. It's just a memory dump. When I see that, I let out a heavy sigh, and my digital pen hovers right over the lowest mark bands. But a top-tier candidate, it's a totally different story. Their opening sentence establishes a critical thesis right out of the gate. They might argue that while urban density increases access to specialized, high-tech sporting facilities, it simultaneously destroys grassroots open field access for low-income youth. Boom, right there. Within 15 seconds, you've shown me systematic analysis. You've proven you aren't just reciting facts, you're actually manipulating them to form an argument.
And this brings us to a massive differentiator. The Cambridge Arabic Language candidate absolutely must demonstrate mastery of fundamental principles, but not in a vacuum. You can't look at these topics in isolation. We are looking for transferable understanding. That's the ability to connect conceptual frameworks across boundaries. If you can link urban life, equality of opportunity, and sport and apply them to completely unfamiliar contexts, you are separating yourself from 90% of the pack. The entire theoretical architecture of the 8680 syllabus rests on integration. Think about it. If the question is focused on food and drink, and you can seamlessly, logically weave in an evaluative point about how rural life impacts agricultural supply chains, which then in turn dictates the equality of opportunity for healthy eating among young people, wow. You are no longer just answering a generic question. At that point, you are conducting an academic symphony, and I am basically forced to start awarding you top-band marks because your conceptual framework is just that bulletproof.
Let's move into Section 2, the candidate clash, alpha versus beta.
Okay, I want you to imagine a split-screen viewport right now. On the left, we have student alpha, let's call him Alex. On the right, student beta, let's call him Sam. We're looking at 2 distinct candidate archetypes who completely miss the core principles of the syllabus, but in totally opposite ways. First, let's look at Alex. Alex's strategy is pure brute force. When the exam starts, Alex is practically hammering the keyboard, convinced that the examiner just wants facts, facts, and more facts. So Alex dumps these massive, unorganized paragraphs of statistics about urban versus rural caloric intake. Line by line, it's just textbook definitions. There are no connections, there's no context. As the examiner, I am desperately digging through this mountain of data, literally begging to find a single drop of analysis. It's exhausting. Now, on the other side, meet Sam. Sam leans back, takes a breath, and decides that facts are boring. Sam believes the examiner wants pure eloquence. So Sam writes with this beautiful flowing flair, stunning vocabulary, complex sentence structures, going on and on about the emotional essence of young people finding themselves in the big, lonely city. It's a great read, honestly. But there's a fatal flaw. Sam completely, 100%, dances around the core command word of the prompt. If the prompt says evaluate, Sam is just describing. So contrast Alex's chaotic, fact-heavy paragraphs with Sam's elegantly written but analytically hollow response. It's a clash of 2 terrible strategies, and honestly, both of them are failing.
Here is exactly why they are failing. The Cambridge mark scheme explicitly requires comparative analysis. This is non-negotiable, guys. It requires identifying similarities and differences. It demands the use of comparative connectives. We are looking for words like conversely, whereas, or nevertheless to act as signposts in your essay. It requires supporting every single comparison with hard evidence, and then finally drawing conclusions about the relative importance of those points. Sam's beautifully written response completely lacked this evaluative depth. The Cambridge mark scheme operates on 3 distinct levels. You have descriptive at the bottom, analytical in the middle, and evaluative at the top. Sam got stuck at level 1, just describing things prettily. And because of that, my digital grading pen is strictly locked into the C or D band. All that beautiful vocabulary, totally wasted because the analytical framework just wasn't there.
So how do we fix Alex and Sam? We have to strip away their bad habits and rely on a standardized procedural framework. We need to deploy a strict systematic sequence. Think of it as a 5-step formula. Step 1, deconstruct the question. What is the actual command word? Is it discuss, evaluate, analyze? Step 2, extract relevant data. We do not need everything you memorized, we only need the facts that specifically serve your argument. Step 3, execute with notation. You break the problem into logical steps, typically using a point evidence explanation link structure. Good old Peel. Step 4, verify results. Look back at what you just wrote and ask yourself, does my evidence actually support my conclusion or did I wander off topic? Step 5, present in the appropriate format using the correct academic terminology. For Arabic language 8680. When candidates like Alex and Sam finally ditch their extremes, combine targeted data with coherent flow, and bind it all within this rigid analytical structure, that is when the internal mark verification meter on my screen hits 100%.
All right, Section 3. We are doing a live marking audit. Time to spot the penalty through my eyes.
I am handing the digital grading pen over to you for a second. Let's do a live challenge. A hypothetical response about the syllabus topic, food and drink, just dropped into your queue. The timer is ticking. Here's what the student wrote. The shift from rural to urban life changes dietary habits. Fast food is more common in cities because it is cheap and quick. Therefore, urban young people suffer from poorer health than rural young people, proving that equality of opportunity in healthcare is failing. Okay, think about it for a second. Read it again in your head. Where did this student just forfeit 5 critical marks? I'll give you a hint. The vocabulary is fine. The topic is perfectly relevant to the prompt. But as an examiner, I am taking my red marker and slashing a line right through that final sentence. Why? Because they leaped from the statement, fast food is cheap, directly to healthcare equality is failing, without showing a single connective analytical step to get there. They jumped over a massive logical canyon, and in Cambridge marking, you cannot make unsupported leaps.
Now, this brings us to the ultimate examiner alert. This is pulled straight from our internal guidance documents. Listen closely. Process and visible working matter just as much as your final conclusion. We call this the method mark strategy. Now, you might associate the phrase showing you're working with the mathematics exam. You write out your equation, right? But it is deeply fundamentally true for essay writing in Arabic language 8680 as well. If you jump to the final evaluative conclusion without showing the working out of your argument, without explaining the why and the how, you lose the method marks. Here's the crazy part. Even if your final conclusion is slightly off base or a bit weird, if I can trace a logical, systematic method in your paragraph, the mark scheme allows me, actually it encourages me toward method marks. And those method marks can literally save your grade from dropping a whole letter boundary.
Let's look at this side by side. Let's contrast these two approaches. The dropped mark response on the left, it skips steps. It offers a bunch of descriptive fluff, jumps to a massive, sweeping conclusion, and leaves me, the examiner, totally guessing how they got there. It completely lacks reasonableness. But look at the flawless method on the right. This student uses a strict deconstruct, solve, evaluate framework. First, they identify the given information about urban diets. Then they break the analysis into logical steps, carefully comparing caloric density to the fast pace of city lifestyle. They solve it systematically by introducing specific, localized evidence. And finally, they evaluate by making a justified, nuanced recommendation about healthcare access based on that specific evidence. It is a tightly woven chain of logic. Honestly, grading a paragraph like that is an absolute joy. I don't have to hunt for the meaning. The marks just flow effortlessly from my pen.
Moving to Section 4, the top 3 warnings directly from the examiner's desk.
Before we wrap this up, you need to hear these. These are the top 3 tragic traps that cost thousands of candidates their A-star every single year. I pull these straight from the official principal examiner reports. Trap number 1. Using the wrong approach for the wrong context. This happens all the time when a student memorizes a perfect essay about sport and then tries to forcibly shoehorn it into a question about urban and rural life where it simply does not fit. It's painfully obvious to us. Trap number 2. Forgetting to check format and presentation. If the prompt asks for an article and you write a formal academic essay or you completely ignore the required tone, you bleed marks instantly. Formatting is not a suggestion. Trap number 3, and this is the biggest killer in topics like young people. Answers that are not specific to the context given. Students will write these vague generalized statements that could apply to literally any country in any century. They completely miss the specific, contemporary context relevant to the Arabic-speaking world that the 8680 syllabus demands. Don't be vague, be hyper-specific.
And that brings us to the final quality review pass. When I am grading, my actual matrix tracks 3 things simultaneously: systematic analysis, format presentation, and specific context integration. Remember Alex and Sam from earlier? Let's say they finally listened to my feedback. They sat down, combined forces, and submitted a new paragraph. This time, it completely dominated the rubric. They diligently verified their results. They utilized highly appropriate, elevated terminology, and they wove very specific contextual evidence about rural youth migration into a beautifully formatted, systematically analyzed argument. There are no logical leaps. There is no descriptive fluff. When I read a paragraph like that, I don't even hesitate. I type a perfect full-mark score into the Cambridge system and hit enter. Approved. And let me tell you, for both the student and the examiner, that is the ultimate feeling of mastery.
Time out for a quick second. If you want to continue pulling back the curtain and outsmarting the exam board with high-impact explainers just like this one, make sure to subscribe to Ace the Exams right now. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And do me a favor, drop a comment below and let us know what subject, what qualification level, and what target grade you are fighting for next. Whatever it is, we are going to make it happen together.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought as I log off the portal for the night. Are you studying merely to memorize facts, just crossing your fingers and hoping the right ones magically show up on exam day? Or are you ready to actually master the examiner's method? Because the next time you sit down with a past paper for Arabic Language 8680, I want you to hear my voice. I want you to deploy that 15-second scan. I want you to rigorously use the systematic sequence of deconstruct, solve, and evaluate. Stop just listing facts and start building arguments. Master the method, and I promise you, the marks will follow. Until next time, keep analyzing, keep pushing, and I will see you back at the marking desk.